And that book is not about intuition or what this essence of the divine that we carry within us, but is about the way that the spiritual dimension adores us beyond our wildest imaginings, and that sure enough, somehow, angels are diving down, intervening in our lives, making things happen, offering us intuitions, if you will, the little tap on the shoulder that says, go here, don't go there, or the book that suddenly throws itself at your feet open to a page that you need to read this sentence. We have these little notes and letters that are handed to us all the time from the universe, from the goodness of providence. And they are angels helping us. I have just story after story of people who have seen angels and who have been touched by them. And that book had a gigantic life. It was just recently translated into Chinese, to my great pleasure. I have a copy of it in Chinese. Of course, I can't read it, but it's wonderful. I don't know. But in The Art of Intuition, I was carrying us forward one step to the divinity that we all have if we can act actually as angels ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, this goes to the next question I'm going to ask you, is that do you perceive that how we as individuals believe in the Creator, if you will, affect our intuition?
No, I don't. I don't think that you need to believe in God to have sharp, focused intuition. But you must believe in the goodness of the world. And I think that it helps to be aware, awake. It helps if you meditate. Meditation is one of the ways that the brain develops, grows, expands, fills in all the clefts and cavities, and makes transitions. So meditation is very important, but it doesn't need to be a religious meditation. You don't have to do centering prayer. You don't have to pray to a deity. Weeding the garden can be a meditation, or knitting, or taking a walk. But it must be in silence, solitude, some kind of quieting, repetitive action. The Buddhists do not believe in a creative God, for example. But meditation does three things. First, it brings you peace and serenity. And secondly, it gives you very, very sharp intuition. And third, if you wish it, it will give you the direct experience of God. This is a very high thing to achieve, and it changes you cellularly, and then you do have even more intuition. But not everybody wants the experience of God directly. It can be very frightening, and
yes, it can.
Many people are content to believe that things are just the way they are, and they're not going to have a deity to contend with. And some people learned only the God, the celestial psychopath, that nobody would want to have as a God. But it doesn't mean that they can't have intuition. Or it doesn't mean they can't be spiritual. It just means that they have rejected the God of their upbringing and have not yet replaced it with a deeper understanding. Does that make sense to you? I have a grandchild who is 8 years old now, and the other day she was down visiting. I was putting her to bed, and I said, "Did you say your prayers?" And she looked at me and she said, "I don't believe in God." I thought, "Oh God, what do I say?" I said, you don't have to believe in God. But saying your prayers has nothing to do with believing in God. When you say your prayers, you're thinking back over the day and you're saying thank you for all the things that happened, and thinking of those things that you regret having done during a day and promising yourself you'll do better. And then you say, God bless Mommy and Daddy and my sister and my grandmother, and think loving thoughts and go to bed. And then I said, and I want you to watch in your life, and you will see that whatever you want with all your heart and soul will come to you. And she said, 8 years old, I don't know who she was quoting, she said, oh, I don't find that. I find that if I want something, it doesn't come. Now, how many times have we heard people say that in our lives? If I really want something, I won't get it. In my experience, if I really want something, it's given to me. It's not given to me on my time, but afterwards, when I'm not thinking about it, I suddenly think, oh my gosh, I remember really wanting this 2 years ago, and here it is. It's just thrown itself in my hands. So I said to her, you're absolutely wrong. If you think about it, whatever you want will come to you. And the next thing I knew, she flipped herself over and put her hands together, and she was saying a prayer. I was so proud of her. I was so proud of her. But you see, she doesn't have to believe in the God that she as we grow, our perception of God changes. So what she was saying is that the God that she had first heard about, she didn't believe, and she hadn't made up a new big enough possibility to be the mystery.
Well, it seems that, through observation of myself in my past and others, that the perception that we have been handed, if you will, of what is supposed to be God from other people's perspective has really brainwashed a lot of people and kept them from actually accessing their skills.
Or accessing their own hearts. And in your heart is where you will find God. In your own heart. In the most gentle, tolerant, forgiving place, there is God. And in your pain and suffering, there is God. We're not promised that bad things won't happen. We're promised that we're not alone. And that angels will be there to comfort and warm and guide us and govern us and take care of things. Anyway, I do believe that people who are optimistic are happier than negative people, the ones who are always expecting something dreadful to happen. And I believe that those people who believe in a trusting and good universe, a friendly universe that's on our side, in other words, of a loving God, are happier than other people. And if the point of living is to be happy, then it seems to me it logically follows that you should make up for yourself. If you can't do anything else, make up a gentle and loving God. The God of my understanding is beyond comprehension. I will never understand, but I can stand in awe of the goodness, the sheer goodness and beauty, and the little bits that I see of it compel me to long for more.
Absolutely. It's all about surrendering. And it goes back to the adage of what I talked about at the beginning of the show, that we've been taught things that are actually the reverse of what they really should be. We've been taught to be and think in a certain perspective, to act in a certain way, to be controllers of everything. So when it comes to this aspect of intuition and dealing with our tools, we have to learn to surrender, to let go, to not be so tapped in to the intellectual mind completely, even though that is an aspect because it is a projector. But we need to sort of kind of reverse and lessen some of the things that we've been taught they do have a place. But when it comes to intuition, like you said, it's a completely different energy signature of what we're used to working with.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Can I tell an animal communication story? I don't know what the time is like.
Absolutely. Actually, we have 15 to 20 more minutes. Absolutely.
Okay. I consider animal communicating as a part of intuition because it works from this same energy field. And the first time I ever heard about animal communicating, I was being interviewed on the radio up in Boston, and the interviewer was saying goodbye to the woman she had just finished interviewing. I was sitting in the outer office waiting for my turn. And as she came over and we shook hands, she said, I was just interviewing this animal communicator and her dog. She had brought an English Spaniel with her. And I said, really? I'd never heard of animal communicating. What's an animal communicator? What did she say? She said she was telling me that she can talk to dogs like Dr. Dolittle. I said, what complete nonsense. I couldn't possibly believe that. Well, the radio interviewer said, I agree. I thought it was totally nonsense. So I said to her, can you talk to my dog, the English Spaniel? And the animal communicator said, oh, we've been talking all this time while we've been on the radio. Really, said the dog's owner, the interviewer. What did he say? He says that he doesn't like to go down in the basement because the stairs are very, very steep. He said that a new two-legged has come in the house and the cooking is not as good as it used to be and he doesn't like her. And the radio interviewer said all of that was absolutely true. And her mother had just come to stay with them, and the mother had taken over the cooking, and she did not like the dog. And the dog, therefore, was often put down in the basement. And the stairs of the basement were too steep for the dog to go down easily, and she didn't like to go into the basement. I thought that was absolutely amazing. How could this communicator know this from a dog? Well, the way you know it is in pictures. You're the caller that just called who said, I see things visually. She's right. That's the way our animals communicate to us. You lose your cat and you have an image of the coat closet. You open the coat closet and the animal comes out. It's very, very interesting. I have had, I admit, one experience where an animal spoke to me in English using words, but it was carried on the emotion of great fear and love. But often it's in pictures. And if you want to talk to your animal, you do it the same way in pictures so that they will be able to pick it up. So if let's say you have a horse and the horse does not want to come in from the pasture and you want to take a ride, you start sending images of the fun of riding across the fields together. And in a little while the horse will come to you. And I suspect it's the same with dogs, although I don't have a dog at the moment, but I know that my dog always knew much more about me than I ever knew about them. And they operate at the emotional level.
Indeed.
They're not working on the intellectual level, and that's where intuition rides, on the emotional level, as we've been saying all of this time, of course.
Indeed, and I perceive when you talk about animals, isn't it interesting, Sophie, how animals operate from an emotional signature of love? It does not matter.
They are our teachers.
Yes.
They're our great, great teachers of how we are supposed to behave. If we can only love as deeply as a dog, even the person who has offended us and forgive them the way a dog does.